right. Hello. Welcome to our first annual Women, Water, and Tech Month. I'll kick us off here. We wanted to open up with a quick video from one of our partners that you'll be hearing from today.
And we're about to go up and visit the school, and this is where the school kids come down and get their water too?
Everyone is allowed to come here and take water.
Okay.
In fact, it has helped so many people in the community. They are enjoying it and they are very much grateful to you. That's all.
I think that video shows the reality of the water crisis, and it's why we've gathered the women on today's panel addressing the global water crisis and gender inequality. My name is Stephanie Tatum. I'm a brand strategist, and I'm the marketing lead here at Women in Tech. I have a background in developing data-driven marketing programs and digital customer experiences. I'm also super passionate about education, personal development, and community development. That passion is what brought me to Women in Tech, which has a double mission of one, closing the gender gap, and two, helping women embrace technology so that we can empower 5 million women and girls across the globe by 2030 and meet 5 UN Sustainable Development Goals. As part of this mission, we're devoting the month of August to looking at the intersection of water, women, and technology, focusing on a different angle each week of the month. To kick this week off, we sit down with 3 amazing women who will show us the critical connection between water and women around the world and in our own backyard. You'll learn why solving the water problem is fundamental to empowering women in technology, and conversely, how technology is fundamental in solving the water problem. We encourage you to use the chat to ask questions to our panelists and to each other. Any conversation to help build your network through this panel is what we want. And with that, it's my pleasure to introduce our panelists for today. We have 3 amazing ladies. The first is Lumbee Malambo. She is the president and CEO of JB Dondolo, Inc. Lumbee was born in Zimbabwe and moved to the United States in 1985. Inspired by her orphaned father, who never went to school but served as a revered humanitarian in his local community, Lumbee took the leap to continue his legacy. As a result of her dedicated actions in serving the Iguzi, Zimbabwe community, she started the 501c3 nonprofit JB Dondolo, Inc., after her father's namesake, with a mission to remove barriers of access to clean water, sanitation, and hygiene in underserved and impoverished communities to help reduce poverty and promote gender equality. Lumbee is a UNA Women's member, a Global Goodwill Ambassador, and a United Nations Global Water Partner. She's an advocate of clean water and empowering women and girls to lead healthy and fulfilling lives. Second, we have Karice Sacco. She is the executive director of the Austin-based international nonprofit WellAware. Her tenure as an intern at WellAware led to her full-time position as the organization's director of operations after a career in the biotech industry. Her passion for international development, combined with her commitment to excellence, earned her the most executive leadership position at Wellaware after just 2 years. As one of the youngest executives in the water charity sector, Karice has already earned a certification in Sustainable Development Goal number 6, ensuring access to clean water and sanitation for all. She's been quoted in national publications and is a member of the Rural Water Supply Network and the Young Nonprofit Professional Network of Austin. Our third panelist is Catherine Bergman. She is the co-founder and COO of Well Beyond, a social enterprise SaaS company providing expertise and tools to organizations and governments on water development and health initiatives. They are setting a new standard for the water aid industry. Through Catherine's professional career and her volunteer work in the social impact sector, she is pioneering innovative technology to develop a new method for engineering in her field. She began her career in structural engineering at a large Austin firm and later became vice president of a Missouri firm before co-founding Well Beyond in 2016, where she dedicated her professional knowledge to help improve the development sector through growing technology. Well Beyond has helped change the lives of thousands around the world through its clean water, sanitation, and hygiene tools. I'm so excited for us to hear from each of these women, and now I'll hand it over to our moderator for today, Lori Rodriguez.
Hi, thanks, Stephanie, and thank you, our really esteemed panel. We appreciate the time you're giving us today and the vital work that you're doing. So the first question goes to Lumbee, because the idea for this Water and Tech Month came from a conversation you and I had earlier in the year. So could you tell us a little bit more about your dad, your organization, and why access to clean water and sanitation is fundamental to gender equality?
Absolutely. It's amazing how we moved from having that conversation to having this event today. So I'm grateful that we had that conversation earlier on. So my dad was an orphan and he never went to school. My mom, who was a school teacher, taught my dad how to read and write. And when he learned to write, he never stopped writing. I mean, he wrote letters to like people that he had connections with. And I remember, you know, how many times we had to go to the post office to mail the letters. He got lots of responses too. One thing to note is that my dad was a humanitarian, even though he didn't know it himself. He was actually a humanitarian. I've never seen anyone that committed to helping people in their community as much as my dad did. I have to give credit to my mom for being that pillar and that influencer and that supporter for people and ideas. My nonprofit JB Dondolo, which is an organization, is named after my father, as you heard. I formed it when my father died to continue his legacy because he asked to finish his work to help the women in Igosi Clinic, have a better life. He was extending the maternity wing so that they had more beds, more delivery beds, and more maternity, more recovery beds, as well as refurbishing the clinic. When I went to visit the clinic, I stumbled upon something that was critical. They had a critical need for water. I wasn't there for that, but it was clear to me that the clinic wanted something different. It was quite frankly water or nothing. So I listened to their needs and went to work. From that time on, actually I should say from that day on, I focused on SDG 6, which is Sustainable Development Goal 6, water, sanitation, and hygiene. And I fell in love, with water because I'm constantly learning something new every day. So my organization's mission then became to remove barriers of access to clean water, sanitation, and hygiene in underserved and impoverished areas to reduce poverty and to promote gender equity. So I see water as the gateway to getting women and girls out of poverty, honestly, because the collection of water heavily relies on women and girls who must walk miles and miles to fetch water. I'm providing intentional placement of water systems and water in these communities so that they don't have to walk. I'm giving back time to these women and girls so that they spend time on themselves, learning new skills and, pursuing careers, and the girls, staying in schools even during menstruation. So that's how we get women and girls out of poverty in these communities, to also contribute to the global economic growth. We really want to restore dignity, because without dignity, we feel there's shame, there's no respect, right? There's no confidence, and there's no self-worth. And quite honestly, there's no motivation to do anything. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks. When we spoke, I understood in a head level, in a logical way, the connection with water and girls having to walk, but I didn't tie it to education. And then the thing that opened my eyes completely was the whole idea of sanitation and hygiene in school. I guess menstruation in most communities is something that we don't talk about, but I had no idea it was keeping girls back, that even if they could go to school, they may not because of that issue. So that was another area that you really brought to light to me, how critical water was in reaching goals of empowering women you can't have women in technology if they're not in school, and they can't be in school if they don't have water. And while in the US, we have higher class problems of, getting women into the boardroom, et cetera, but there's no way we're going to meet true gender equity globally unless we go back to water, which is our beginning. So I'm so grateful for that conversation. I'm glad it's brought us here today, which also connected us to Karice and other women. We also have Alicia from Water Institute, who's not here today, but she will be talking later in the month. So turning to you, Karice, Well Aware has worked tirelessly to change the way water projects were executed and managed in developing regions in the world. There were a lot of water project related issues. So my understanding is people would go in, they'd build wells and whatever, but it didn't solve the problems. So can you talk a little bit about what those issues are, why they haven't been solved in the past, and what you are doing differently, kind of along the lines of what we were seeing in the video, to change that paradigm. So Karice, over to you.
Thank you. And thank you all so much for having us on today. Just so excited to be part of this conversation. And I, of course, cannot take credit for the amazing project model Well Aware has. I luckily got to step in later on and get to continue after our founder. But the biggest issues that these communities are facing is, like you mentioned, is these projects aren't lasting. Organizations will come in, provide a clean water system to a community and leave, and the community never hears from them again. And that is how we are different. So Well Aware has been implementing clean water systems in East Africa for 12 years now. We started in Kenya, and that's still where a majority of our projects are. And to this day, every single one of our systems is still providing clean water to the respective community that it's in. So we have a 100% success rate. And this, unfortunately, is not common. Success rate is actually 40% in Africa. 60% of these systems are failing within the first year after implementation. And the reason for that, one of the main reasons, is that there's no follow-up from these organizations that are putting in the systems. They're not training the communities around the system. The communities aren't feeling the sense of ownership that they should. We are very fortunate for the team and processes that we have built. We have 2 team members in Kenya who their sole job is to get to know these communities well and train them that this is their water system. This is not Well Aware's water system, this is theirs. So we work very hard to put that ownership back into the hands of the communities. And that's something we're working very closely with Well Beyond on as well. And I'm sure Catherine will touch on that in a bit. And another big piece that is driving the failure of these systems is improper selection of water systems. So I'm sure most people, when you're picturing, a charity water system, you're picturing a hand pump well. And we do not do those. Those are shallow wells. We're doing very deep boreholes with gravity-driven pipelines. the biggest issue with those hand pumps, and this relates largely to women's issues as well, is women are the ones collecting the water, as Lumbee was saying, and those hand pumps, they form very, very long lines, which then increase violence towards women standing in those lines. So there are just many issues with those kinds of systems. So we don't have any two systems that are the same, and we're structuring them to where a lot of people can gain access to this water. There are not long lines. We don't want to put women any more at risk than they already are. And of course, there's just a ripple effect from there, which I can talk more about in a bit. But what we're talking about in the failure of these systems, we call this the second water crisis, or the hidden crisis. A lot of people know that there are people in the world who lack access to water, but the second issue is the failure rate, which we are doing everything we can to fight against.
Wow. I mean, people spend a lot of money, time, effort, they put these wells in, it seems, and then kind of go off, and you're sticking around to make sure that you're focused on the outcome, not just the project itself, but really the outcome in a number of ways, it seems. Not just the water, but you talked about violence against women, and Lumbee, you talked about going to school. So again, it's this root piece that water provides, and you're looking at impact and outcomes as your success versus the project, the well was built, check the box, we're done. I love that. And what's really interesting is that leads us really directly into what Well Beyond is doing, because there's got to be a way that you can measure and track whether it's failing or not. And one of the conversations Lumbee and I had, again, opening my eyes, was, the water may be tested when the well is first opened up, but it's got to be continuously tested. And that's going to cost the community a lot of money and a lot of time and access to that kind of testing that they don't even have. So Catherine, can you talk about how water is the first step to a healthy and prosperous life, and how Well Beyond is using, and this is where the tech piece comes in, right? How Well Beyond is using technology to increase access to clean water.
Yes, of course. And thank you so much. I'm just going to echo on Karice and say thanks so much for having us. And we're so honored to be a part of this conversation, and how important it is in empowering women and technology. So thanks for having us. And yeah, so Well Beyond, we were kind of born out of Well Aware. So my co-founder Sarah and I kind of saw these issues and these problems, and as Karice mentioned multiple times, the failure rate in these projects is not sustainable, and it's almost it's a bigger issue for these communities when they have water, and then that water source is taken away from them. So billions of dollars are spent every year on those systems, and half of it's being wasted. So what Well Beyond really tried to do was come in and figure out how to change the water sector as a whole. And we also realized that, this rapidly evolving technology is expanding daily. It's crazy, like 75% of rural and in developing countries right now have 3G technology. And we realized that we could harness that and put it into the hands of the communities and empower them to use these systems and use it for good. So we built an app. We are not coders, but we partnered with amazing women and people who are and have helped us develop this product, and exponentially put this technology into the hands of those communities. So yeah, we developed an app that could help troubleshoot these systems if there's problems with maintenance and issues with technology. Then we put that resources into the hands of the community. They can walk through and diagnose these problems themselves. Simple yes, no questions. And we've realized that they could have a system that was, would be not functioning for months, would just take a very quick fix to fix. So a leaking pipe or a float switch that's broken, these things that really, really it's super simple to solve, could be put into the hands of the community. So, and we know that there's, you know, more ownership and knowledge that the communities have, as Karice said, the more it empowers the community to take ownership of the systems and take care of them and really change their lives.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I recently heard a phrase from another woman working in tirelessly in Africa as well on a whole number of issues, and born in Africa, sold for a cow as a child. And she said, you know, what we're looking for, because as you mentioned, billions and billions has been spent in Africa, which is wonderful to hear, and yet it's being wasted. And she said, we want to move from a begging model to a business model. And this notion of putting ownership back into the community provides dignity, which is so important to the thriving of these communities, to get them water access, to free up time, to build these economies, and then be able to feel that pride and ownership of maybe participating in the building, but certainly in the maintenance of something as vital as their water system through a simple app. I love that. Again, technology can solve a lot of problems. And if you're down, boots on the ground, living with the community and understanding their needs, you can create solutions to bring entire communities and economies up. So I love what you're doing there. So thank you all three of you. And I know, you know, we're talking a lot about Africa, and this is a Women in Tech US panel. One of the things it's been kind of faded into the memory, unfortunately, but Flint, Michigan, right? We think we don't have water issues here in the US, but that's not true. And Flint is not an exception to the rule. There are little Flints all over the place. Me personally, when my husband and I were first married, ran into some environmental issues that impacted our water and our air as well. So it is a US problem as well. And I think your app can work with some of being able to apply that app to some water systems and in our own communities as well. So glad you're here, glad you're doing this work, and I can't wait to see it kind of explode all over the globe. Sticking with you, well, back to Karice. You know, I know we've heard, I think we all know or have heard that water issues are women's issues. And can you explain a bit how your work supports women beyond just access to clean water?
Yeah, of course. And, you know, Lumbee was talking so much about this earlier. I don't think I can say it better than she did, but, you know, water issues are women's issues. You hear this all the time, at least we do, being in the sector, you know, and if anybody doesn't know that, hopefully now they do, in these communities where access to water is not, you know, easy, it's not there. Women and children are the ones walking to get this water. So women in turn don't have time to get jobs. Young girls are dropping out of school when they're menstruating and then ultimately drop out altogether if there's no access to water at the schools. And so a lot of well aware systems we're actually implementing at schools. That is, we love partnering with schools. And then, you know, if there's enough water access, we're setting up community access points as well, but it all starts with the schools so those kids can stay in school longer. And then when women have access to water, you know, they're able to get jobs, the economy in these communities grows. And one part of our model, again, back to our community team and how we work with the communities along the way. We're not working for them. It's a true partnership when we're doing these systems. And these communities know better than anyone what their needs are, what their water needs are, what they're going to use it for, how much they need. So we are listening and understanding every step of the way to their needs. And one part of this is helping the community set up a water committee if they don't already have one. These are stakeholders within a community, usually work at the clinic, teachers at the school, who can help oversee the ownership of this system. And we always ensure that this committee is gender balanced, if not majority women. Again, back to water issues being women's issues. They're the main ones that these systems are going to impact. We want to make sure their voices are heard within the community. So this is just such an important part of this model, and having women heavily involved with these systems is going to ensure their long-term success. One of my favorite stories in a community we've worked with for many years, it's a community called Alamak in Kenya. And I never got to visit it before the water system was in. Our founder will talk about it a bit, and how the kids would go to school under a tree, and you know, there were no buildings there. And going back years later, they've got school buildings and a clinic, and the women, who I believe they were walking like 8 miles to a nearby river for their water. After we did the system there, the women actually have their own garden. The men aren't allowed in, and they're using that garden to sell and make their own money. And it's just really fun to go back and visit that community and see these firsthand stories and situations where women are taking charge and able to thrive further beyond just having that access to clean water.
Wow. I love the stories are just incredible. You know, when you start to see some of the videos and hear the before and afters, it really is a picture of how water can lift entire communities up, which it seems so simple. Why haven't we done it? But as you've talked about, there's just issues that have plenty of money's pouring in. People have been helping, which is fantastic. It's better than not having that, but then there were it wasn't sustainable. So I'm so glad for the work that you're doing, and hope we can get this out to as many people as possible. So back to Lumbee, our US audience may not be familiar with the term WASH, you know, transitioning again, building on that notion of school. What does WASH, W-A-S-H, stand for, and why is it so important for keeping girls in school? And if you've got any stories to tell to bring that to life, you know, would love to hear them as well.
Yeah, first of all, I just want to say, all of us here, all three of us here, Karice and Catherine, we have so much in common. Just hearing you talk about, you know, the garden for sustainability, and the committees that you create that have both men and women, because I often hear that, you know, men will say they don't know what women are doing out there when they go collect water. So I think that's helpful. So, but back to your question on WASH. So the acronym WASH stands for Water, Sanitation, and Hygiene. It is one of these United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. They're called SDG 6. And it is important because water itself is a connection to everything in life. So the lack of water means that sanitation and hygiene are compromised. It's said that in this day and age, it's still women and girls that are mostly impacted by the lack of water and sanitation. I can't imagine anything in life without water. I imagine the emergence of diseases and illnesses that could be quite honestly devastating. Because for women and girls, we have our own specific needs, if you know what I mean, and that require that we have water and sanitation. Because without that, it strips away our dignity and leads us to not participate as much in the labor force, for example, and we fall far behind when it comes to education. Yet, when you think about the global economy, for example, it includes women. So think about how much contribution we could make if we had more skilled women and more educated girls. Globally, that could make the economy look really, really good. So why then has it taken us so long to bridge that gender gap and bring women and girls to power? I think if we all advocate for gender equity, gender equality, and become part of the growing movement that we see today, we could potentially see more women and girls get out of poverty. And there'll be less talk about WASH. You hear less and less about WASH when we really tackle the water crisis and innovate globally and innovate digitally. 10 years from now, I really would like to see more availability of clean water close to communities or within communities. And hopefully there will be no more talk about, there'll be more talk actually, there'll be more talk about, new skills by women and more digitization, which is what some of the stuff that Catherine's company, Well Aware, is already doing. So just when I go to all these communities where I work in, and I think most of you are going to touch on this, you see that the communities that are working are really in the underserved and impoverished areas of Zimbabwe. You find that women really don't have time for anything. They spend a lot of time walking up to 18 miles, where I'm working at now at Matobo Hills. They walk up to 18 miles a day, spending 10 hours a day, collecting water, just like in the video that you saw, that are Well Aware, shared earlier. When you saw women just walking in dangerous, environments where they could be raped and where all kinds of things could happen. That's what we're facing. And I'm trying to avoid that from happening. And a lot of women are reaching out to me, asking for our company, JB Dondolo, to provide the systems that are close to their homes, systems that are within reach for them, so that they won't have to walk at night or walk until late or walk in the morning. So that's where I'm headed with this, what I'm doing with JB Dondolo.
Yeah, I mean, it starts to bring it really to life. And another thing we talked about, which makes so much sense when you hear it, but again, I just didn't think about it properly. It's not like we could just send a whole bunch of sanitation products that we use in the US over there, because there's no place to dispose of them. And if you could talk, give me a 30 seconds, a minute on, what is needed in terms of sanitation products for menstruating women. It's not like we can send boxes of tampons over there. Tell us why. Why couldn't we just ship out a whole bunch of sanitary products to these girls?
Okay, that's to me, right?
Yeah.
So the reason why we can't just ship out those products is because that doesn't solve the issue. It's temporary, because they're going to use it, and what are they going to do with it? We need to think about sanitation. Are these products going to be reusable or non-reusable? If they're going to be disposable, how are they going to dispose of it if they don't have water? So we have to think about that, that a temporary fix would work, but we're looking for a long-term fix that is sustainable. So water is probably a long-term fix, because they can wash when they have the facilities with water. They can wash, and then when they have the facilities to dispose of what they're using, that's sanitation, then it's even a lot better, because we're not polluting the environment. That's why.
Yeah, thank you for further exploring that area. Catherine, again, this is women, water, and technology. And I love the fact that you have this vision, Lumbee, of like 10 years from now. Catherine, talk about what Well Beyond is doing. I love this app in supporting women in technology as well as women in the developing regions. So talk a little bit more of this connection between women and technology in helping to solve this water crisis.
Yes, sure. As both Lumbee and Karice mentioned, when women have water, they are empowered and they have more time to, attend school and learn about sanitation and hygiene and have these careers and jobs and do what they need to do in order to have an impact in the world. So what we think that we can do with this app is, and if this last year taught us anything with COVID-19, is that technology is crucial in spreading information and knowledge, and how important water is for all of that. So, we ran across COVID-19 and we couldn't get out to these communities. Our community members couldn't go and train these rural, remote women and everyone on COVID and protecting themselves and washing their hands and simple things to protect themselves against this disease. So, we realized that, apps can go anywhere. So we kind of put this knowledge and information and how to build a tippy tap, how to wash your hands, how to create a face mask so that, you know, you're not spreading the illness farther. And all of these things can be just given to you with a cell phone. And it's crazy too, because more people right now have access to a cell phone than a toilet. So, you know, that just proves how important both technology and water is, and they go hand in hand in so much of this this work, and the amazing things that could happen when we use them together.
Wow, more people have access to a cell phone than a toilet. That's a stunning statement. It really is. And the fact that you were able to get information just in time into the hands of at least some people with COVID information through your app is just a testament to your vision of what was needed in these communities. So again, you know, I'm just grateful that you're there, and I can just imagine this becomes a platform, your app, for so many things. You already pivoted to address COVID, as well as the water issues you're dealing with. I can't imagine what you're going to pivot to as you go forward. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Yes, we have a lot of ideas on the ballot. One of them being feminine hygiene too. So the pony on Lumbees.
Yeah, it is so connected, isn't it? Stephanie, do we have any questions from our participants? Yep, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. Just a couple have come through. One for Karice. There are lots of organizations out there doing similar work to Well Aware. So what advice would you give to find the best cause to support?
Yeah, that's a great question. And one thing we always like to advise people to look into before choosing an organization to put your support behind is looking at those results over time. And we've already touched on this a little today, is, you know, making sure your dollar is going beyond that initial system or that initial project. Make sure the organization you're supporting is paying attention to results over time and long-lasting impact, no matter what the cause is or what the organization is. They need to be paying attention to how your support is going to last for years and years to come. You want to make sure they're doing follow-up and working closely with whoever the beneficiaries are of the work, but that long-term and transparency around where your dollar is going is just so important. So we always encourage people to do your research, ask questions, reach out to the organization and have a conversation with them first. So that's the advice I would give is results over time.
Awesome, thanks. Any other questions, Stephanie? I think you have one for Catherine.
Yes, that is correct. So for Catherine, what is the landscape of technology in the regions you work, and how do you see that evolving in the future?
Yeah, like I said, I mean, this technology worldwide is expanding every single day. The connectivity and just people's access to all of the technology. So, you know, we hope that we can use that opportunity and enhance these digital solutions to help this problem with that is water sustainability and especially women's and girls' access to it.
Wonderful. We have one more that is kind of open to anyone on the panel. Sometimes the work of gender equality and social impact can be really heavy, especially for an issue as widespread and long-lasting as water access. Do you ever feel like the task is insurmountable, and how do you overcome that feeling?
I can kick this one off. It is a big issue. There's, like you saw in the video, you know, almost 1 billion people lack access to clean water. But we just have to continue to do our part, especially with working next to Well Beyond, who is taking Well Aware's success model and helping to expand that to other organizations. You know, we're all we all have the same end goal in mind. There's a big task ahead, but I think there are so many wonderful organizations out there working to solve this issue and all related issues. So it can be difficult, but just know that there's a lot of people out there working towards this greater goal.
Nice. And I think we've got one more, this one to Lumbee. Or actually, if anyone else want to jump on that one, the kind of went to the full panel. How do you choose? Do you feel it's overwhelming?
I don't feel it's overwhelming, because one thing is that, you know, in this industry of philanthropy, you have to have passion and patience. It really boils down to that. If you pick something that you're passionate about, and therefore you're connected to, then it's not going to be a burden, or it's not going to feel overwhelming. The only way you can overwhelm yourself is by just overdoing things yourself. But I mean, if you have to be in focus, and you have to plan and plan well, so that you're not burning yourself out. Because I mean, philanthropy is not easy at all. It's hard, it's work. So as long as you discipline yourself as to how you're going to work, and you have people around you, you have the right team, you know, and everybody has a duty to play, not just you, not everything has to be on you, then you shouldn't feel overburdened.
It's good advice. I need to take that. For sure.
Yeah, and I can just chime in to say, you know, both Karice and Lumbee put it so well, but I think that the water sector and WASH and this organization as a whole is, you know, there's amazing, incredible organizations and women and people in all aspects of the field that are doing incredible work and so supportive and so helpful. And I've never been afraid to, you know, ask for help or questions and been just bombarded with so much support. So yeah, I just, you know, just reach out and know that there's a million other people that have your back and are cheering you on along the way.
Awesome. Thank you. So, you know, moving on to kind of wrapping it up here, let's talk about what's coming up this month. You know, this week we're focused on raising awareness and having this panel and bringing that in. And then Lumbee, you're taking over next week. If you could give us a quick overview of what you'll be discussing, why we should care, and if there's a specific ask that you're looking for, you know, how, if people are interested, how can they get involved with that passion that they have if we've raised awareness or they're interested already in water. So what are you talking about next week? Why should we care? And you know, what would you ask of people?
Right. So I'm really grateful that we're coming back next week. I believe that's the 12th, right? So I'm going to be talking about water, sanitation, and hygiene, WASH, which we just learned about today. So we're going to talk about the UN Sustainable Development Goal or goals, and how we can give time back to women and girls, because we know that the lack of access to clean water, sanitation, and hygiene keeps girls out of school during menstruation, and we just want to move away from that. So we want the girls to go back to school and stay in school all the time. So I will share some information to make you see how women and girls are stuck in this cycle of poverty, and how they spend up to 18 miles a day, you know, walking to fetch water. And you will see how water is a gateway to getting these communities, you know, without water out of poverty. I think it's going to be very exciting to share what my organization, JB Dondolo, and partners do to solve this problem, and the struggles and impediments that we have to go through as we try to provide water. So we also have a fundraising campaign for the project called Water for Widows that will be highlighting what we're doing in Zimbabwe to help the women and girls with water. And I'm talking about helping over 90,000 people in the rural parts of Zimbabwe, you know, that have no water. So please come ready to hear the story I'm about to share, and also you get the opportunity to ask me questions and perhaps play a part, no matter how small or big, you know, in what I'm doing. And then I'll have something to give away at the end to make you a rock star. So you can, that's if you play the game. But please invite your friends, 1 or 2, as many as you want. And please share the invite on social media. I really look forward to seeing you all. And I thank you for giving me the space and the platform, you know, to amplify my voice and also to be the voice for the voiceless. And you can find us on jbdondolo.org. If you go there, we have our campaign. We have several campaigns a year. So, but I'm looking forward to seeing you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to it as well. Every time we get together, I just love the conversation with you, and I learned something new, and my passion for this issue just increases. Karice and Catherine, you're partnering together the August 19th, which, you know, seems to be what you guys do, that collaboration. So what can we look forward to?
Yeah, I'll kick us off, and I'll let Catherine kind of talk in a little more detail about who will be there. But like you said, we're doing August 19th is our event at the same time. It'll be a very similar conversation panel with all the women in tech that we work with. So we'll have a coder, a female coder, a groundwater engineer, I believe, are one of our team members in Kenya, and Catherine can correct me if that title is incorrect. We'll have Catherine on it as well. She's an engineer by trade. And then both Well Aware and Well Beyond's founder, same person, Sarah Evans, she'll be on there as well, lawyer turned social impact person who started all of this. So that will be our panel, just really focusing on women in tech and the work that we are doing. I believe our event is titled Water Project Resiliency and How It Drives Ongoing Empowerment. So we'll be talking about exactly that, the long-term relationships we have with communities and how Well Aware and Well Beyond are working together to do this work. And I'll let Catherine speak in a second, but I'm going to say one more thing is we're taking the full month of August as an organization as well to focus on water awareness, and we're using each week to focus on a different topic. And that week is ongoing maintenance and relationships with these communities. And our call to action over the month is to join our village. So that's our group of recurring donors who keep this work ongoing. So that's what we'll be talking about, how this work is done. But Catherine, I'll let you talk a little more about that panel and who's going to be there.
Sure, yeah. We, Well Aware and Well Beyond both have an incredible women-owned and women-led amazing group of people. So we'll have Princess, who is based in Nigeria, and she is Well Beyond's coder. She will help, talk about the technology behind the app and all of the incredible things that she's been working on and in developing that and where we look forward to going. And then, obviously Sarah, our founder and co-founder of Well Beyond and Well Aware, who none of this work could have been possible without. So she's just an incredible human. And then Mesrit, our project intern, who is here with me in Kenya right now, helping implement these projects and see them through from the very start to the very end, and just does incredible work with the communities and the systems and maintaining those and the importance of that. So it'll be a really good panel, and we're really looking forward to it, and just seeing how we can continue this impact and keep empowering women both in tech and water and social impact as a whole.
All right. Wow. Again, it's just incredible. And I love that you'll be doing some of this and are doing it from Kenya as well. So boots on the ground for sure. Stephanie, can you talk a little bit about what Alicia Douglas, who's not on our panel today, couldn't make it today, but will be here presenting our last week, which is actually Water Week.
Yes, definitely. So Alicia's panel will be bringing in water women from Detroit, Colorado, and then also abroad in Israel. And they are part of the Water Rising Institute, which is focused on advancing water intelligence by identifying sources in real time and alerting authorities when pollution is released into either a sewer system or a coastal community. So she's really focused on that monitoring and using data to make sure that local governments are making decisions that are beneficial to the community when those issues arise.
Wow. That really brings it home. I know she'd done a lot of work and is still doing a lot of work in Flint, Michigan and other places, and trying to bring accountability to organizations who use our water systems. And, as they take the water in, when they put it back, it's got to be put back in the same or better condition than what they pulled in. And that hits all of us, whether we know it or not. So anyway, we're kind of running out to any closing thoughts or comments by anyone on the panel, and then we'll close it out after that.
Well, I would just say thank you all so much for allowing us to have this conversation and helping to promote the work of all the organizations involved this month. It's really exciting, and hope we get to keep doing this every year.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you so much.
All right, awesome. And Lumbee, I'm again so grateful for, I don't even know how we connected, probably through LinkedIn somehow, but I'm so grateful for that conversation and the work that you do, and then how, as you said, in such a short period of time, it's brought to this event, and hopefully we'll make this an annual event. And as you guys continue your work, reach out if you've got, more cool stuff that you want us to bring to our audience. And for those listening either live or in the replay, this is an issue that you can get involved in, whether that's writing a check, which is always needed. And as you can tell, listening to the advice of how you choose to spend your philanthropic dollars is really important, and focusing on causes and organizations that have impact. But also technology. This is an area just ripe with innovation, as you've heard, with, I forget the numbers, but it was pretty high. What was it? 75% of people have in rural areas have access to a phone, right? Imagine what we can do, these apps, creating apps and all sorts of things to reach these communities and lift them up. You can be a part of that. You can learn to code, or you can learn to project manage. You can bring any of the skills that you have, whether that's requirements, customer experience, even if you're an executive assistant somewhere, you bring skills to the table, and organizations can definitely use your help, or maybe your ideas to start your own organizations that pull apart an issue and are able to build some kind of viable impact sustaining application or concept somewhere out there. So you can get involved, and this is definitely a worthy cause. And everything you do is just amplified, as you've heard, when you can bring water into a community, and sanitation and hygiene. Education goes from there. Women can start entrepreneurial organizations, whether that's selling food, as you heard, building gardens, or clothing or artwork or whatever that is, or maybe coding classes. So it really is the route for everybody. And with that, Stephanie, can you close us out?
Yes, of course. Thank you everyone for attending. If you are interested in any of the additional events, please visit womenintech.org and you can sign up there. In the meantime, feel free to follow us on social media and just connect and engage in our Women in Tech community.